A former professional rugby player is my background, and from leaving professional rugby I went into the Royal Air Force as a pilot. I served in the Air Force for 18 years in the UK, and I was on the front line for most of that, serving in operational theatres as Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, everywhere that we were involved in for the entirety of my career. Nearly 11 years ago, it was the 9th of February 2014, I was flying a sortie from the UK, from RAF Brize Norton in the Cotswolds to Camp Bastion in the Helmand province in Afghanistan, when in this very mundane environment, we were flying at night, so we were the lowest possible target we could be. We were flying over the Black Sea, and lights off, very low state of arousal, and I decided, right, I'm going to have a break from the cockpit. It was flying an Airbus, so two pilots next to each other. I was the co-pilot for this sortie, and the other pilot was a very experienced test pilot that I'd known for a long time. So I did my checks, handed over control, and went into the front galley just behind the cockpit, when all of a sudden myself and anyone else or anything else that wasn't strapped down was pinned on the roof, and the aeroplane had gone into an almost vertical dive. At that moment, being the other pilot, it's that flight or fight or flight response. What do? You can freeze, or you've actually got to do something. So, being pinned on the roof, I managed to kick off the wall behind me and crawl along the roof, going from a brightly lit cabin into a pitch black cockpit. What I was then faced with was my weapon, body armour, charts, everything pinned on the roof, flashing lights with the emergency lights flashing at me, and then all I can see in front of me is the sea, and we were going straight into the sea. So what do? I have to crawl along the roof over all of this stuff that's stuck on the roof, and the way that an Airbus is set up, the control isn't between your legs, it's an ergonomic side stick, like you will have seen on a computer game control column. And I know there's a red button on there that will give me control. It's a modern aircraft, it's fly-by-wire, it's flying by computers, so I know that I can take control of this aeroplane. So by enabling myself to crawl along the roof and then pull myself down, I managed to hold this button down for 3 seconds, and then with an American voice saying priority right, I then get control of the aeroplane and pull the plane out of the dive. So it's gone from a negative G dive immediately into a positive G climb. So I then go from being on the roof to being in the footwell very quickly. I then managed to get back into my seat and recover the plane. The other pilot was in complete shock. His face was a waxy white from being completely gone. It was a nasty incident. There were 198 people on board the aeroplane, and it would have been the biggest single loss of life for a UK military asset since World War II. So thankfully, we managed to save the lives of quite a few people, but on my route along the roof and probably going into the floor, I managed to break my neck and break my back. In the post-crash analysis, they knew the route that I'd gone because I'd left a smear of blood all the way along the roof where I'd split my head open, and then managed to get the control back of the aeroplane. Now, I managed to divert the aeroplane into a US Air Force base on the Syrian border on a May Day, and there were a lot of physical injuries. mine being some of them, but then there were an awful lot of mental injuries from this. I then went into my recovery pathway. So I've gone from being a high-performing athlete, an individual from flying, to straight onto an operating bed, and then not being able to feel my toes and being paralysed for a couple of weeks and having to walk again, having to learn to walk again. I then was on the long road to recovery, and yeah, the physical aspects were hard, but the mental aspects were even harder, I would say. I have 5 operations. I'm now rattling around with metal, and I'm not particularly good at going through airports. But on my recovery pathway, where I say I've gone from this high level and hitting rock bottom, it was through the power of sport and through the power of sports recovery that enabled me to pick myself up and drag myself out of this slump. And I don't know if you've heard of it, but there was a multinational sporting event that was set up by Prince Harry called the Invictus Games. It started in London 10 years ago. I actually watched the first one in an ISO container in Afghanistan, thinking, these poor blokes who've all lost limbs in Afghanistan. And then the next games, I was a competitor. So I then competed in the Orlando Games in 2016, and then the Toronto Games in Canada in 2017. It was through this power of sports recovery that enabled me to get back, and through this phenomenon of being resilient again and finding joy in something. That was the enabler, and it's what so many people experience when they've gone through trauma into what we call post-traumatic growth, and you're actually growing from these traumatic incidents. Now, I managed to get myself out of this slump and get my flying medical back, and I became the lead captain of the UK VIP jet, so I was flying the royal family and the Prime Minister around on our version of Air Force One. So I'd gone from nothing and back to something. I then went and worked at Kensington Palace for both of the princes, and we set up something that I was incredibly passionate about, and it was looking after the good management of good mental health. So healthcare, if you think about it in 4 phases of promotion, prevention, detection and treating, and healthcare is predominantly in this detection and treating phase. But why do you need to wait until something bad has happened? You know, you don't have to go through things like I went through to be able to build yourself back up. So we want to enable you to think proactively, think positively, think of it as prehab rather than rehab. So we want to give you the positive tools and techniques, these positive outlooks, and these positive affirmations of how you can live a happier, healthier, more productive life. So we created something called Peak State, which is what we run today. And it is designed for you to unlock your performance, increase your potential, and improve your well-being. So it's interesting now that you're talking about AI, because we're now working in AI, and we've just set up another part of our company which works in AI, and it's designed to remove the negativity in social media and cyberbullying. And it was developed by our team in Australia, which was intelligence analysts and intelligence officers from the Australian government. And it's designed for athletes. And it goes into your social media accounts, and the AI will then remove any negativity from your social media. It uses 2 million keywords and phrases in 100 different languages, and in under a second, if someone posts a negative comment on your platform, it instantly removes it so you don't see it, and it goes into our database, so that if it's a repeat offender, then they can be prosecuted. And it enables those individuals to think positively and proactively about their performance as an athlete, but as an individual, why have that negative space and that negativity in your social platforms, and think positively on it. Now, if you can remember this summer, or this last summer, gone in the Olympics, and there was an Australian break dancer called Ray Gunn. She wasn't a particularly good break dancer, but she was getting negative comments up to a death threat every 9 seconds on her social media platforms, and we deleted all of them, so she didn't actually see them. The same goes for now, we've got working in the NFL and NBA, enabling these athletes to be able to perform at their best. So it would be great to talk to some of you in this room now and be able to expand this business further. So from me, I've drawled on for too long now, so you can all together just go shh. So please go shh. By doing that, you've just gone from your fight, flight, freeze into your rest and digest. You've activated your parasympathetic nervous system. You've had a beautiful meal. You can now digest and relax. But thank you very much for listening. And I'll pass over to you.